Hey guys, welcome back. Robocraft Early Access coverage. This is episode 81. I'm Enigmius, and today we're finishing off the Flying Squirrel. That's right, we found a name. There was a viewer recommended name, and it fits. It fits because the bot resembles a flying squirrel in so many ways. Big thing this episode is getting some guns on, and it's a little bit easier said than done because the shape of the bot does not really lend itself to easily mounting guns in all the places that we would like to. We want to try and get 12 guns on the bot because that's how many guns we have in storage that we could use. And it's another redundancy thing, really, just having as many on as possible so that we can afford to lose some and not lose firepower. That's kind of the goal, and we'll get there, but it'll take a little bit of fiddling and a little bit of messing around to try and make sure that we've got all of the guns on that we originally anticipated. It's still a very big bot. It's very large, it's very bulky, but it flies surprisingly well due to the rotor blades allowing us a certain amount of agility in the friendly skies and the not so friendly skies. Easier kind of blocking things up a little bit and just trying to make spaces now where we can fit guns. We've already used all the spaces that we have at our disposal to add them, and now we kind of have to make spaces by moving things, removing things, changing things. It's not that big of a deal. It's usually a little bit different for our builds because we tend to build the gun mounts and orient the guns first just to make sure that we can fit everything. In this case, it was more about fitting all of the rotor blades and making sure that those were going to work the way that we kind of expected them to. So now one of the things that we can do, not like what we just did, is actually mount some guns on the sides of the outriggers that are holding the rotor blades, just because that's a quick and easy way to get things to fit. Anytime you're using SMGs, really. I've tried it in the past with rail cannons, mounting them on the side. It's just awfully disappointing when you only have a very limited number of shots before you have to reload and you see one of them fly off in the completely opposite direction of what you intended because it reached its depression maximum on the side that couldn't reach the target. It's never fun when that happens. So the thrusters are kind of disposable. They're not absolutely crucial to the design. I would like to have some on the bot just because, you know, we can pretend that it makes us faster. I don't have a speedometer to confirm, but it's just one of those things. If it can legitimately make us faster, then we want to have it on the bot, at least in some measure. But first and foremost, there's no point being really fast without much offense to bring to the table. So that's kind of why it's winning out in terms of priorities and making the decision to remove the thrusters and mount a gun on the side rather than keeping the thrusters and not mounting the gun at all. So that's basically the very simplest terms of why we pulled the thrusters off. And like I say, we can always review later to see if we have space where we can fit the thrusters somewhere else. Really not complicated at this point because we're so limited in terms of what we have left to do. It just, making everything fit. And also, the mounts here are less than ideal. They're not what I would normally do for gun mounts, specifically because, realistically speaking, airborne with hover or with rotor blades, there's only so much you can do to make things robust before it's overkill to the point of being ludicrous, because everything between the core of the bot and the part that you're trying to reinforce is not really contributing to that strength. So there's no point making a gun mount stronger than the outriggers that are holding it, because the outriggers are going to fail before the gun mount does, and you just wasted all the CPU on gun mounts that are never really going to get a chance to do their business, so to speak. Now, I decided that we could get a little bit more space for guns if we sort of extended sort of a nose out the front. It would also help a little bit with protecting the Tier 10 rotor from damage just by being in front of the rotor and kind of soaking a few hits before the rotor gets it. And again, referring to the block that it's mounted on, which is less of a concern in the context of, the rotor itself is probably what's going to take the hits. Now, I read in the patch notes today for a hotfix that was released that the armor and lift capacity of rotor blades has been increased, and I haven't had a chance to get into the game and find out by how much. I'll have that information before we do the match footage in this guy, so we'll know for sure. I won't know how much. I won't necessarily know how much the lift capacity has been increased, because there's a certain amount of time involved in the testing to figure out exactly what that is. But the armor we should be able to tell just by looking at the tooltip. The Tier 10 rotors I know are around the 16,000 armor mark. How much they go up to, we'll find out soon enough. It just won't be this specific episode. So now we've got the front end built out just to hold one extra gun. And the main thing now is testing to make sure it still flies, because we've added quite a bit of weight with 12 Tier 10 SMGs. That's not a trivial amount of weight, but you can see the whole screen shakes when you try and shoot that many SMGs. It's actually a little bit off-putting because it makes it a little bit harder to aim. The reticle is always shaking around. But overall, I mean, the amount of space that people have to shoot at is dramatically smaller than it was with the Manta. We've got these huge open areas, well, open areas between the outriggers that used to be just a single layer of armor that was theoretically protecting the rotor blades, but it actually wasn't. And as a result, we've kind of shifted, instead of a single layer of armor under areas that wasn't really helping, to now having all that armor around things that are kind of helping, holding the rotor blades and offering a little bit of protection to them. Realistically speaking, we're still going to be in a situation with this bot where we're going to have to be a little bit cautious about the situations that we place ourselves in. I can see this being a really excellent bot for flanking, especially catching the blob from behind and taking out medics before anyone really has an opportunity to kind of figure out what's going on. I could see that being a really good role for this bot if we can get into that kind of position. It's just the question of how big we are and how easily we'll be spotted before we get anywhere useful if we're always relying on being super stealthy. So I think there's going to be a pretty steep learning curve where it's going to seem awful for a period of time, and then all of a sudden we'll just get it. And things will get as, pretty close to as good as they're going to get. I don't expect it to be a long, gradual experience. Now, here's me, insisting on my damn thrusters and trying to build them out in a way that, they've got a little bit of resilience to them in terms of the mount that they're on. Again, the thrusters, in this case, are larger than the mounts and more accessible in terms of what people are shooting at. So it'll be the thruster that goes before the mounts anyways, I expect. And I completely forgot when I was setting this up that I hadn't turned on the mirror building mode, so I'm expecting this whole setup to be constructed on the other side as well as I'm doing this, and it wasn't, of course. So I was like, yay, it all fits. We got 4 on in the middle and it's fantastic, and then I went over, So we're actually going to run out of CPU before we get all of the thrusters on that we want. But we'll have it set up because we still have, I think, 15 more levels that we can gain, and that's 165. No, it's 165 extra CPU that we'll have. So as far as this bot goes, we're not necessarily done. We'll still have a little bit of CPU that we can mess around with getting things on. But for the most part, this guy is done. Now, the thing is, it's a Tier 10 bot and we're still using the Tier 9 blocks, and that's just because we haven't had an opportunity to establish a supply of Tier 10 prisms to do our builds. They're just so expensive. That's been kind of a limiting factor. I would like to be able to invest some time just playing Tier 10 matches, having some fun, grinding some RP, and then turning this bot all into Tier 10 prisms. I don't think that's realistic. I don't think if we want to be in a megabot anytime in 2015 that's the kind of thing that we're going to be able to get away with, but we're going to try. I have it in mind. Every once in a while someone's going to come across one of these videos and leave a snarky comment about building Tier 10 bots with Tier 9 blocks. Snarky people on the internet are just that. There's so many things in the world they could be complaining about and doing something about. They want to be snarky about Tier 9 blocks and a Tier 10 bot. That's fine. But we have goals that unfortunately don't necessarily allow us the grinding time to turn a bot like this, which is hundreds of blocks, all into Tier 10 and do other things. So we're going to kind of gauge it. We'll see how it goes. I understand that the nature of the blocks puts us at a slight disadvantage, but also our building techniques give us sort of an advantage that balances out. At least that's what I like to tell myself. So I'll let you watch the rest of this practice map footage. And then the next episode out will be this thing in action. We're do another 4 or 5 matches so that we can see how it performs in real-world situations. And then I would like to be making plans to, restart and finish the Panther B, because that wasn't abandoned because I didn't like it. It was just we got these, rotor blades, and it was kind of fun to play around with them. But it's still definitely a bot that I want to have in my arsenal for whenever we get the urge to play the sniper. So that's going to be one of the things we have on deck. I'm still working on the beginner's guide. It's going to be kind of like a foundational video so people can watch it and just be grounded in the basics. I don't want to throw all kinds of weird details at them that aren't necessarily helpful all the time, but the basics like hitting Q to spot, for example. I think it would be nice if there was a 15 to 20 minute video out there that we could just refer people to that'll get them sorted for the very basics and feeling like they're confident and able to contribute to whatever is going on in the matches that they join. So we've got that. We've got other builds that I'm sure we'll come up with along the way. There's going to be no shortage of content. If you want to be notified when I add those videos, the easiest way to do that is to subscribe to my channel or follow me on social media. Links for social media always in the information section below the video. Please leave your comments and feedback, guys. Thanks for watching, and take care.